If there is one thing that developers have always tried their best to nail, it definitely has to be making the worlds of our favorite video games feel more believable and immersive. And that can be done in many ways, whether by improving the visuals to make them look prettier than real life, composing a sick-ass soundtrack, nailing the art direction, writing a good story, or making the gameplay engaging and fun, or just combining all of them. But once you're done with all of that, sometimes adding the little things can make a difference. And that's our subject for this video. The little things are basically the small touches that make everything perfect, you know? The icing on the cake, you know? The cherry on top. You know? It's the small thing that makes the other thing better. Got it? Nice. Of course, each game does those little things in its own different way. Whether they are small details, a hidden dialogue option, or a secret mission. They can take all shapes and forms. A great first example is in Dishonored 1, where one of the developers just happened to come from a family of fashion designers. So naturally, he made the sickest drip. The result? Damn, bro! That shit look good. At first glance, you might say, oh, well, that's not a big deal. Anyone could have designed cool clothing, but no, you don't get it. The more you look at it, the more you appreciate how well these outfits fit into the game's overall vibe, and how much charm they add to it. To the point where you're gonna be like, fiddle my diddle, that's some good clothing. Why the fuck did I... Another nice little example is in Doom Eternal, where id Software went out of their way and decided to make it so that every demon has a little personality trait to them.
If you look at the paint element, I kind of think of him like a grumpy old man, and a lot of his animations and the way he looks, he just looks very crotchety if you actually look at the way he looks. And he has this one bull charge that he does kind of where he kind of like walks like this. It's really funny. It's kind of like a grumpy landlord.
They didn't have to add this. They could have used the same animation of the Kako demon, but they didn't. It's such a nice little spice on the whole plate that is the game. While we're on Doom Eternal, it's also worth mentioning all the nice little references and secrets inside the Slayer's room. My favorite is this one.
Prepare for unforeseen consequences.
Keep in mind, Doom as a whole is a franchise about killing demons. This stuff was just added for shits and giggles. While we're on the topic of cool dudes wearing cool armor, Dead Space 2 to be specific. In Dead Space 2, you can find locked doors that tell you unauthorized access. Now when I heard that, I immediately thought, hey, I can pick shit up in the game. I have a telekinesis ability. So I went searching for a body, dragged it to the scanner, and what do you know? It worked. It's such a small thing that really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. But I liked having it around. It added some immersion to the game, especially that the game let me do it by myself instead of taking the control away from me and throwing a cutscene that does it for me. Now, originally, this whole video was supposed to be about our next example alone. That should show you how much appreciation I have for it. It's something very artistic, very nice, very epic. It's InGame Posters. God damn, do I love these things so much. They make games go from this to this. They're so beautiful. Like, I wanna marry InGame Posters. Can someone make it happen? The reason I like them so much is because they add so much world building to any game you add them in. The moment the player just gets a quick glance at them, they can immediately tell what's going on in this world. Take Wolfenstein for example. With just a simple poster on the wall, the game conveys the message that this is an alternative timeline game. It's very simple, yet effective. Shout out to all video game posters. They gotta be one of my favorite genders. There's also those other times where developers go a bit harder on the little things, and what comes out is the most genius shit ever. Like for example in Max Payne, where the game is a noir detective story about killing lots of people and taking revenge. With that in mind, the developers decided to add this to the game.
Flesh. The flesh. I think I died. I think I'm dead. I don't know. I don't know.
You can stumble on TVs displaying these short shows on them, and let me tell you, there is some good shit in there. Better than what you can find on TV in real life. Lords and Ladies is a show about lords and ladies that has all the characters say my lord and my lady after every sentence. Address Unknown, a show about, I don't know man, fucking flamingos and mirrored serial killers?
Mira claimed my girlfriend had turned evil.
Or my favorite show, Dick Justice. A show about a cop that's supposed to be a parody of Max Payne himself, and sometimes he quotes things like him, and it's just the most genius shit ever. I mean, take a look at this.
The rain was coming down like all the angels in heaven had decided to take a piss at the same time.
God bless the little things in video games. Without them, we would all be hungry, homeless, with no pants, and most importantly, our society will crumble as we start killing each other while quoting American Psycho. Of course, I couldn't name every little thing in every game. There are thousands upon thousands of stuff like this spread across all games. I mean, one of these games I mentioned on its own could get its own video if I were to mention every nook and cranny in it. So instead, I want to end this video with one more little thing that you can find in Fallout New Vegas. In the Honest Hearts DLC, you can find a bunch of caves scattered around the map. Each cave containing remnants of the person that used to live here. All sorts of stuff can be found. Traps, food, crafting materials, weapons, beds. But what's important is that you can also find terminal entries of the person who lived in these caves. If you gather all of them and read them in order, they form up an extremely beautiful but also sad story of a man that couldn't catch a break. This man had many names: the Survivalist, the Vengeful Spirit, the Father in the Caves. But his real name was Randall Clark. Randall's story starts with him on his way back from military service to his family, when suddenly the bombs drop and the Great War begins. He realizes that his family cannot be saved, and to be quite frank, no one can be saved at this point. So he hides in one of the caves in Zion, and for months is unable to leave said cave due to all the radiation. His notes even say that he tried to commit suicide because of the guilt of not being able to save his family. However, he ultimately decides not to. Time goes by and it becomes safe to leave the cave. And while he's venturing Zion, he runs into a group of survivors that he starts to care about. So he watches over them, helps them, but eventually fails to save all of them, as one day they get attacked by a group of armed vault dwellers and they all die. Although he failed to save the people that he cared about for the second time, this time he was able to at least avenge them, as he grabs his rifle, sets up traps, and starts a merciless campaign against the armed dwellers. It lasts 10 months, until they finally retreat. However, as the dwellers were escaping, one of them runs away from the group and falls into one of Clark's traps, a woman by the name of Sylvie. She explains that she never wanted to be a part of the dwellers, and that she never wanted to hurt anybody, nor did she hurt anybody, and that's why she ran away from them. So Clark frees her and nurses her back to health. Time passes by and both Clark and Sylvie form a relationship that lasts 3 years. And just like everything in Randall's life is, everything unfortunately comes to an end. That end being the birth of his child. The delivery turns out to be a breech birth. Clark has failed to save those he cared about for the 3rd time, and I'm already getting goosebumps explaining this. Anyways, the contemplation of ending his own life kicks in again, but once more he doesn't do it. Years pass by and Clark sees a group of children coming into Zion, and for the last time, Clark lends a hand and helps them out without making contact. However, this time he corrects his past mistakes, and instead of leaving supplies, he writes them notes and leaves them books that contain advice on how to survive and fight. However, good times, again, never last, as his time is coming to an end. Age 70, shortness of breath, coughing blood. Before he dies, he leaves all his possessions to the children and writes them one last note informing them that Zion is theirs to keep, and that they will no longer hear from the father in the caves. However, he will still be there watching over them from a distance. The player can then find the body of Randall Clark laying on top of a hill, staring into the sky, and on it, one last note that says that he never forgot about the faces of all those he lost. He ends the note with his last words being, "Goodbye, Zion." And that concludes the story of Randall Clark. The point of me explaining all of that is that I wanted to share how the little things in games can sometimes be more than the details of Bert's being able to shit on Gordon's car. Don't get me wrong, I still love that shit, no pun intended, but the little things can also sometimes do amazing things, such as this compelling little story. Keep in mind that all of that is not a marked quest, it's not in the main game, rather in a DLC. On top of that, you have to again collect all the notes and arrange them in order to get the full picture. It's such a small, little, tiny, hard to find thing that most people will ignore. Yet it's so well done that it gives such a huge impact on the player. I still would have enjoyed Honest Hearts 100%, but just this little story, this little thing managed to enhance the experience a whole lot more. And that's why I think that the little things in games matter, no matter what they are. Posters, TV shows, a small little interactive puzzle, or a nice little hidden story that you can uncover. At the end of the day, they all form up to enhance one important thing, and that is the experience of us, the players.